Welcome back. Retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel. He's also the president of the London Center for Policy Research, Tony Shaffer. He's a Newsmax contributor as well. Great to see you, Tony.
Good to see you, John. Thanks for having me.
I wanted to talk to you about what's happening now at the Zaporizhzhia power plant. This is a nuclear power plant, much bigger than Chernobyl, but it's come under attack by the Russians. So here we have an example of how Vladimir Putin could unleash a nuclear bomb, essentially, on Ukraine without actually using a nuclear bomb. What is going on?
So what we've seen, and I tend to believe these reports are accurate, the IAEA, the international commission that actually monitors this, says that this facility has been attacked by the Russians. Now, John, this is very bad for two reasons. First, this plant provides a great deal of power for Ukraine. And secondly, obviously, the potential environmental hazards of compromising a nuclear facility is something in our mind. And as I was preparing for our interview, I noted that these are Soviet-designed nuclear power plants. So Soviet and nuclear power plants never go together well, just saying. So we've got to actually pay attention here because there's some real vulnerabilities. These things were designed during a time in the recent past where nuclear safety wasn't the biggest concern by the Soviets. So right now, if you combine the vulnerabilities with some level of military action to basically detune their safety capabilities, you could have a real problem on your hands for this coming winter.
And, militarily, Tony, you're the lieutenant colonel. It doesn't make much sense, though, for Vladimir Putin to be attacking these facilities, because I thought the concern was that if there was some sort of fallout, who knows where the nuclear cloud could spread. It could even come back into Russia. So it seems like he's being pretty careless with these attacks.
And plus, he's going to have to rebuild it if he wins. So this is the issue. So I think, John, at this point, Putin and his staff have decided on a policy of pain for the Ukrainian people. You mentioned their resilience, no doubt that the Ukrainian people are prevailing as best they can. With that said, Putin's strategy is now to degrade and deny the people of Ukraine the benefit of utilities and power at the time of winter. So I think he's trying to split the baby here. If I can mix my metaphors a bit, I think he's trying to degrade the amount of power available, do the damage to the power grid so that's not available, but not completely make it so that he irradiates the fertile plains of Ukraine and Russia. I think he's indeed trying to do things to destroy their will to fight the Ukrainians by destroying the infrastructure. At the same time, I think there's a limit to how far he's going to go. I don't know if he's reached that limit yet or not.
And, we're talking about the resiliency of the Ukrainian people and just looking ahead to what they're going to deal with this coming winter. There's an interview with Vitaly Klitschko, the mayor of Kyiv, and he obviously, folks know him. He's a professional prize fighter, used to be, but he's emblematic of what the entire country is dealing with. But this is going to be one of the probably the hardest winter of anyone's life. And what happens come the spring? Can they survive as a country? Can the resiliency remain?
So that's going to be a question left to the EU and other NATO nations, which are going to have to really double down and triple down on humanitarian support and assistance, because at this point, if NATO's not going to go in militarily, and I full disclosure, I don't think that's a good idea. If you're going to help the Ukrainian people survive, the Ukrainian people, John, are caught in the middle of this. And if you're going to help them survive, I think the EU and its member nations are going to have to figure out a way to create some sort of a humanitarian lifeline of goods, services, fuel, and other things to help the people get through it, because that's what Putin wants to have happen. He wants to weaken the will, and the way you stop Putin's effort is by helping the Ukrainian people maintain their resilience, and that's going to be the challenge for the EU, I think, primarily.
Yeah, and we'll see how this plays out, too, because we know President Biden just called for more aid for Ukraine, but this is not as popular with Republican members of Congress, and they control the purse strings, or at least they will come January. Tony Shaffer, great to see you as always. Thank you so much.
You too. Thanks, John.